Hi, hello. I'm Jack Cameron Kay, and you're watching the Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press. Today I am happy to be joined by Jack Cameron Kay. How's it going?
It's going great. It's going good. Just like adjusting to this new paradigm, I guess. Since the show came out, we're almost at a month since. Yeah, it's November 7th at the date of recording. It's like been a month since the show came out, and it's gone by so quickly. But obviously, it's been wild.
An absolute whirlwind for you, I'm sure, especially on places like Instagram and TikTok. And we will get into that online support and love that you've been receiving later on in the interview. But I wanted to start off by asking a very important question. Have you purchased prints and decor for your walls at home, or are you still an empty wall kind of person? I think I can see a blur of some things in the
Yeah,
background.
there are things on my walls. In my main living space, it's somewhat barren still, I'll be honest. But I recently shared on TikTok that I was given wall decor for my birthday from my sister. So that was huge for a guy like me. Um, yeah, you know what? I'm not an interior design person. I struggle in that regard, but I'm working on it.
Hey, and if it comes from family, that's the most important part. Like that's
Right.
special. You're like, it has to go
Sentimental.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what can you share about your background in the arts and what sparked that passion in you?
Well, okay. I was the youngest of four children. I grew up in the Detroit area. And I think just like early on, I learned that like the way I could hold attention in my big family was through singing. Like, and then I don't even know, like, it just became my thing. Like, singing was just my thing. And then, acting came along and it was doing a lot of theater growing up, lots of theater throughout high school. And we had a really great program. And then I had a voice teacher in high school that was like, I think you could get into Juilliard for classical singing. And I was like, what? And then I kind of, I was like, okay. And then I like auditioned and I got in. And it's sort of like you don't really like get into Juilliard and not go, it felt like. So I went, and then while I was there, I was kind of like, okay, I don't think I want to be an opera singer, but I do want to I want to work on the musical theater. So I made that my thing and, studied acting independently in this program. And then you know, sort of had a bit of like what sort of an independent study, I guess. And then after college, was auditioning for like Broadway stuff. I was desperately trying to be in Dear Evan Hansen. And then, I mean, pandemic hit. Sorry, am I being sort of long-winded in my response right now?
I think you're covering like your career so far. We will get to little parts of it, but you can continue. We'll cover
Um,
after Evan Hansen auditions.
yeah, Evan Hansen auditions, and then, just found my way to an acting class, and all of a sudden just became really obsessed with the art form. And I had a teacher who was like really telling me that, you can really do this. And I never considered that I could do it separate from singing. Like I always thought the two had to be combined. Like that was my draw. And then she started to really put a lot of energy behind my pursuit, my studies. And over time, it was like, maybe this could be my main thing. It's hard to call yourself an actor when you went to school with the Juilliard actors because they're like the most brilliant actors in the world, and I was obsessed with them and I learned so much from them. And so to like come into my own right or come into my own, confidence as an actor. Like I had to stop comparing myself to the Juilliard actors because it's a different experience and it's this is my journey. So taking ownership over that has been a really beautiful process.
Going back to your childhood, you have posted videos of a young Jack performing the Spice Girls,
Oh
Spice of
my
Your
God.
Life and stuff, and it
Yes.
was so
Yes.
adorable. I mean, did you grow up in a creative household with your siblings, or were you the one, like you mentioned, you had to hold that space? So were you the only one who was like, "Come on, look at me, I'm a performer," or were all your siblings like that?
So my oldest sibling, my sister Hillary, she was also a singer. I grew up going to watch her in, we had this like epic show choir program in my high school. So I grew up going to watch her and I was completely obsessed. And then we were a very musical family. And like I was exposed to a lot of pop music and I was obsessed. And then also like in fourth grade, I was a part of the high school production of Beauty and the Beast, and my sister, I played Chip, and my sister was Mrs. Potts. Okay. Yeah, it was cute. It was really cute.
That does sound like a really nice family memory, and I'm sure your parents also thought that was really cute. And more
Hmm.
recently, you have posted covers singing SZA's 20 something, Lana Del Rey's Cherry Blossom, and you do have a remarkable voice. You also play piano and guitar. So, how long have
Hmm.
you been playing those instruments for?
Piano I started playing when I was like 10. And then guitar I learned during COVID in like 2020. That became my COVID project. Yeah, I used to post a lot more covers. I haven't done it in a long time. Um, It's just like singing stopped being my like main thing, I feel. I put everything into acting. Um, but I still obviously sing all the time, involuntarily. I don't realize it when I'm doing it.
Are you like a shower singer? What's your
Oh,
go-to song
absolutely.
right now?
Shower, bedroom, living room. Well, I can't really say what my song is right now because it's for an audition. I can't
It's
stop
a
singing it.
secret, top
And
secret.
it would be a big no for me to say what what song it is. But uh what other songs? I mean, I'm obsessed with the new Rosalia album. It just came out today. And I don't know I don't know any of the words in Spanish. Like, and I'm just sort of like, I'm like pretending. I don't know.
That's the life of a actor, a life of a performer there. So
Yeah.
hey, it's
The
gotta
life of
work.
a showgirl.
So you did mention Juilliard. I mean, I'm sure it can be hard to not compare yourself, but you are a graduate. You did receive multiple scholarships, so I feel like you deserve your place up there. You are a high achiever. Tell me about your studies. Like, what were the key lessons that you took away from your time at school into your professional career today?
Well, okay. So, I mean, the singing program at Juilliard is folded into the like music program. So, you're taking all these like ear training and music theory classes along with the musicians, who by virtue of like mastering an instrument, you have like trained in theory and in ear training. All of us singers, it's a different process. Like it's a different process to master the instrument. So when we got there, all of us singers were like losing our minds. We felt so behind. And it was like, oh my God, they would play a chord on the piano and they would count from five. And we had to say if it was like major, minor, diminished. And it was horrifying. Like it was the most terrifying experience of my life. It was like being in boot camp, kind of, but for music. But I will say that like now, if I ever have music to learn, or if I am in a rehearsal environment, like I can learn things so quickly, and so that innate musicality that it like instilled in me, I'm so grateful for. Um, I also like one of the most important things about having gone to Juilliard, I think, was just getting me here in New York at a very young age because it forced me to really expand my horizons at a really young age, and I was forced to like really get to the core of who I thought I was, or just start that process a bit earlier. So I'm very grateful for that. And also just like being around people who are the best for their age group in the world. That has an effect on you. It makes you want to be better. It makes you want to love to measure up, and you see what's possible. You're constantly around people who are doing incredible things.
And in a place like New York that is so creative, I'm sure you found like a really good community since you've been there. How has your personal musical journey been coming along, and is releasing original music still a goal for you?
You know what? It isn't. I like maybe if I were to experience heartbreak of any kind and then I write incredible music that the world needs to hear, like maybe in in that circumstance, but like I think that like I wrote music that I thought was good. I'm definitely proud of some of the things that I made, but I am slowly learning the ropes of the entertainment industry. You know, I'm being led through this process. I do not have the energy to try and tackle another right now. Like, like that was like the decision I made when I decided to like I was like, why don't I go for the one impossible industry that I know a thing or two about, versus the music industry, which is like so even more difficult than the entertainment industry or the, film and TV. So it's not in the plans currently, but never say never.
Like you said, it's really its own beast to tackle. And I feel like from what you said, going into film and TV is one thing that you're kind of new to and learning and really throwing yourself into that side of the craft. But you have posted some other clips. I loved the little demo you posted for Waiting on You. And you can
Hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the lyrics were like openly wasting, no longer ageless. I'll keep on waiting on you, which I loved. I thought that was fantastic. So, I think the world is going to miss hearing your voice, but hopefully there are other opportunities to shine on that front. And that kind of leads into my next question because you mentioned that you did audition for projects on Broadway because you are a trained musician and performer. Like there are other career routes that you could have taken after graduation and still obviously can seize those opportunities. But what made you turn to Boots when you kind of got that audition in a role that doesn't make use of your musical abilities as a vocal arts grad?
Okay, well, so, my agents would send me out for some musicals. Like I have auditioned for some. But I would say like 90% of the auditions I was getting in is for film and TV. So, Boots came into my life by virtue of just getting called back for it. And then I got it. So it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do it. Um, I think that for me, taking ownership over my uh my status as an actor, separate from singing, has been a really important process for me of like coming into my own as an artist, as an adult, and as a, you know, as I've become more secure in my identity. Singing, like, to maintain that instrument requires a Herculean amount of like discipline and just like a certain kind of like lifestyle. And I was eager to just take a break, and so I was mostly interested in film and TV. Um, and then Boots just came along like this miraculous um gift from the gods. in this role, this opportunity. And every element of it since then has just been like almost suspiciously like perfect and like it all just feels very as written and I'm very grateful. I'm so grateful.
Before we get into your audition process, on a personal note, you came out as queer before you left for school. If you're comfortable sharing, can you talk a bit about your journey to becoming secure and confident in your sexuality and in your own identity?
Sure. Yeah, I mean I think that like somewhere through the middle of high school I was like, yeah, I think it's not giving marrying a woman. Um, I think for a long time, like I let myself be, I like thought I was like maybe bisexual, and then over time, like, that changed. Um, and then it was just the more, God, I was in high school, things were really changing. The world was really changing. It was becoming so much more accepted and all none of my all most of my friends knew and they didn't care and and I knew I was going to be going to New York and it was like oh my God, and I had been visiting my friends at theater school and like they had been like basically I was out when I would go visit them who the year above me and I just I knew that once I got out of the somewhat oppressive environment of my high school that it wasn't going to be nearly as much of a problem and so by the time I got to school I was like pretty secure in it and open about it. And yeah.
It really matters to have such a good support system. So I'm glad that it seems like, you had accepting friends and people who you could turn to. Let's get into Boots in season one. And I will
Okay.
note to all those watching that we are discussing spoilers. So please make sure you have finished the season before continuing with our interview. What can you share about your audition process and what really drew you to the show and your character of Jones?
Well, okay. I'm pretty sure I got the appointment on a day that I was flying to Colorado to see my sister. Um, so I had very little time to work on the tape. So like I'm pretty sure I read the sides like two or three times. And then I was like, oh, we just need to put this on tape. Like we just need to film it. And so I threw it up on tape and I was like, I feel really good about that. And then sent it away. Didn't hear about it. I was like in callbacks for another show at that time. And then my agent calls. He's like, "Hey, like you're gonna have a callback for the core because that was like the working title was the core." Um, and I was like, "Okay." And then one of the writers followed me on Instagram, and I was like, "Okay." I was like, could be a coincidence, but also could not be. And then, I had my Zoom for my callback. We did the callback on Zoom, and there was just an energy in that Zoom meeting. Like it was just palpable. You can sort of tell when they want it to be really good. Like they're kind of rooting for you. Um, and then afterwards, Angus followed me on Instagram an hour after my callback, and I was like, "So they're talking about me on set. They're talking about me." And then I still had to wait like a week and a half to get the call. I knew that I was very close. I knew that I was very close, but my agents wanted to wait until the ink was dry and, to tell me. And then I got the call while I was boxing up people's food to go at my restaurant. And just the most exciting moment of my life that thus far. That was yeah. you I revisit that moment a lot. Um, just in awe of everything.
How special would that have been for you, and what food were you boxing up? Do you remember that
I
specific
do. I
detail?
do. So I work at a restaurant called Bernie's. I don't know if you've ever heard of my friends Missy and Marty, but they're really big on TikTok.
I'll
Um,
have to
uh,
go look them
so
up.
so they got really big on TikTok while I was shooting Boots. But so Bernie's, it's the vinegar chicken and a chicken parm. I was boxing up those two dishes. And I said to my coworker, I'm like, can you finish this for me? I have to take this phone call. Because it was 10 p.m. My agents don't call me at 10 p.m. Like I knew something was happening. Um, and then I just like ran around the restaurant. I told all my tables, I was like, I just booked a Netflix show.
Did
Yeah.
everyone share in that same excitement as you?
Yes, it was like a real, it just feels so impossible sometimes. It feels like it'll never happen. Like I always have faith. I really believe in myself. And I always have faith in just the journey. But there are certainly moments that feel hopeless. It feels hopeless sometimes. So to have that happen is just so bewildering, and it's I'll be grateful forever for that moment.
Do you remember which scenes you auditioned and like what was in the initial character description for Jones that you received?
Oh God, I don't know if I remember the initial character description. I could honestly probably pull it up for you if you want. But I remember the scenes were the ones from the woods with Cameron, where I was like, I'm bored. Let's play a game. How often do you at boot camp? And then um, boot camp is so gay. Like those two scenes. And then in the callback, they would have me do those two scenes, through. Like that's like a full scene because that's like one big sequence. And then for the callback, they also had me do the scene where we're in the woods and my like eyes messed up. Um, and so those were the two scenes, and I didn't even have the scripts for those episodes when I got to the show, but I knew those scenes were gonna show up somewhere.
So you never did a chemistry read opposite Miles.
No, no
Natural
chemistry read.
chemistry, natural chemistry in the
I,
show.
I mean, I think we do have great chemistry. And I remember when we were shooting this scene in the woods, we would like be taking a break, and people would come up to us. They're like, "There's something going on between. There's really something here." So that was a relief.
It definitely came through on the screen. And for viewers joining in episode 6, like what was your mindset going into production, knowing you'd be joining an already established cast and crew midway through filming? And do you remember that very first day on set?
Yes. So the very first day, like, I think my mindset was just don't get fired. Like, don't get dropped from the show. Um, I was terrified. I was terrified. And I was like hiding it well. I was doing like deep breathing exercises and just sorry. Trying not to panic. But the first day, Miles, Liam, Kieran, they all had lunch with me and welcomed me onto the set. And I was like, I'm a little stressed. They're like, of course you are. Of course you're stressed. Like you have the hardest job. You're jumping onto this like fast moving train. Um, but then once you start doing it, you're like, yeah, this is what they paid me. This is what they brought me here to do. And I know how to do it. So over time, you just settle into that and you start to develop more like, confidence and security in what you're doing. Um, but of course, it was my first time on a film set. So I was like, I was just I was hanging out for dear life.
Well, you did a really good job masking it, and I think your acting speaks for itself, honestly. And in terms of preparation, like, was there anything specific that you did preparing for Jones? Like, did you read The Pink Marine? Did you do any research on the Marines and boot camp, or did you kind of just go in not knowing what to expect with this new environment?
So yeah, I mean, I read the book. I watched a lot of videos on boot camp. I watched like documentaries about boot camp, uh, and read about the Marine, like the recruiting process. And then I also, they gave me a rough sketch of this person's backstory, but then I also created my own. And I don't know whether it was told to me through the showrunners or I decided, but I like decided that he was from the Panhandle in Florida. So I wrote him a whole backstory in depth. And then I also would watch just like footage from the Panhandle in the late 80s and 90s just to sort of like give me reference points for like what this person's world looked like. I also listened to a lot of music from the late 80s. Um, and I just wanted to have a sense of this person's perspective in the world, what his tastes were, how he viewed the world culturally, because that's such a huge part of where I get my identity from. Um, so yeah, I definitely tried to be pretty in depth in my preparation. And hopefully it paid off.
I know you don't want to give away all your trade secrets, but can you expand a bit upon how you interpreted his past and Jones's actions of joining the Marines after a bad separation, considering that was what he told Cameron was what compelled him to actually sign that 4-year contract?
So, I had considered Jones's story to very much be one of survival. I sort of, he's young but was living with his ex, so I I had the sense that he was maybe thrown out of his family home, doesn't have a relationship with his family, and was forced to like use his sexuality and his, powers of flirtation as his means of survival. So I think what that looks like for me is like potential situations of abuse, potential, I don't think that I don't think that you just join the Marines on a whim if your situation is particularly good or healthy, safe. I think there was a sense of escape in this decision to join the Marines. So, and I think that really informs his behavior in the Marines as well. Like I think Jones is a survive by any means necessary type of person and was forced at a young age to think about himself first and foremost because he had to fend for himself.
And there's this line that he says to Cameron when he says, going back to somebody who's been an a-hole to me and making them see how much better I am without them is basically the reason to go on living. So, he has kind of this mysterious, kind of hardened background, and like there's some cynicism to him as well. Can you
Hmm.
share some insight into how you shaped Jones with respect to his demeanor, his mannerisms, and major personality traits? And did you draw inspiration from any existing fictional characters or other people through this process?
Well, I think that inspiration likely happened just by osmosis, like I think I'm someone who's watched a lot of movies and watched a lot of TV, so I think that like there were influences subconsciously, but I didn't consciously like refer to any performances. It's interesting, I did my initial tape and that was like my first impression of this of the character on the page. And those mannerisms and that behavior that I did in that initial audition really were the backbone of the performance. Like I built from there. And people, the mannerisms and those came from really just trying to affect Cameron. Like those, I wasn't thinking about it all that much, honestly. I just sort of like, I had a person on the page, I had a mission, I had something I needed to get done, and those behaviors just sort of emerged as a result of that. I definitely would walk around set and just hold my posture a bit higher. I wanted to make sure that I was projecting this confidence and I wanted to feel like there was this like physically dominant nature to him. Um, but other than that, the things that got captured on camera just were that was just what happened in the moment.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that that's so perfect to the character and speaks about your acting as well because, he's cheeky and cunning and, viewers saw him when you kind of do a deep dive. Jones is very manipulative. He has this manipulative aspect to him and he does kind of talk about being a chameleon. No matter where you are, act like you belong. So he sees
Hmm.
life as a game. At what point into his 4-year contract does he start to become disillusioned with the Marines and with boot camp?
Well, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but boot camp is 8 weeks. But I think he's been here extra long because he had been there extra long because of his sleepwalking situation. But I think it's pretty early on. I think that Jones joins the Marines. Jones definitely joined the Marines thinking that it was another situation that he could outsmart, outwit, outplay, to be all survivor about it. Um, the thing very quickly he realizes that he's bit off a little more than he can chew, and then he's kind of stuck there. So it happens early. He doesn't want to fulfill the contract. He's not does has no intentions of fulfilling the contract. So it happens very early. Sorry, I keep yawning.
You're like, I hope this isn't boring you, but no, it's
No,
it's
no,
still the
no, it's
morning.
not. It's
It's still
not.
the morning. So
Yeah.
you are a busy working actor. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your
I'm so
morning.
sorry.
That's okay. Hey, if you're not being yourself, if you're not just a little tired at any point in the day. But the
Yeah.
Crip platoon is interesting because you mentioned like cycling through it again and again. He has no intention of finishing boot camp. And there's also the sleep disorder, which is kind of mentioned that it is in his file, but it is kind of unproven. Jones certainly not shy around Cameron since they first meet. Can you tell me about his actions towards Cameron and the comfortability he feels, all while knowing the implications of being gay in the armed forces?
Yeah, I think that like Jones is just by the time he gets transferred into Cameron's platoon, Jones is just over it. He's over it. He just does not care anymore. And I don't I think on some level it's like okay, throw me in jail. See if I care. Like I don't have that all that much else to live for. Or there's like this cavalier attitude about, behaving in this really risky manner, but I think Jones just believes that he has a way to get out of anything. And so he sees this person who finally there's something interesting here. There's something fun. I really think that at the beginning, like especially before Jones has any reason to think that he has something to gain by manipulating him, he just is bored and he wants something fun to do. Um, and also like he's probably attracted to him and feels like he has an opening here. So I think Jones is just amusing himself at first, and then I think their friendship grows and Jones starts to like feel this affinity for him. Sorry, God, why do I keep yawning? Feel this affinity for him. And I don't think that can I think that when Jones like when Sullivan gives me the the opportunity to get out, and it involves having to hurt him. Like on some level, I think I'm a little bit devastated by it. Like I know that I have to do it, but I don't really want to. And that's why when I come back to the bunk after having talked to Sullivan, I'm like, F Sullivan. I'm upset because he's making me do this thing to someone who I've grown to like.
There's definitely that internal struggle that he faces. But in terms of Cameron, like, how did he know that he was gay?
Sometimes you just know.
Like is it a gaydar like he had?
It's total gaydar, instant gaydar. He was like, I know what you are from the moment he laid eyes on him. And by the way, it's not that hard to tell in this environment.
Jones is like he's
Um,
just very perceptive too. So I feel like,
oh
he's
yeah.
gone through it. He knows that world and he can sense that there's, a bit of like a closeted person over there, at least in the aspect of boot camp.
Well, I think any person who's been forced to survive in the way that Jones has is acutely aware of their surroundings. It is extremely perceptive because that information is like vital to their survival. Um, so Jones is constantly scanning and constantly reading people because otherwise I don't think Jones is someone who really lets his guard down all that often.
And he is certainly not ashamed of who he is. You mentioned the kind of land navigation training scenes, opposite miles. How were those for you to film, having these kind of one-on-one scenes? And for Jones, really breaking down that barrier and interacting with someone more similar to him in sexuality than any of the other recruits he's met at camp. So you mentioned like developing a bit of that relationship and understanding between the pair.
I mean, that was probably my favorite day of shooting of the whole thing. I mean, it was Miles and I, a full day of just one-on-one scenes. Um, just very intimate. It was just us in the woods and the crew, and like we had these little tiny conversations, that were captured in in such close focus. But it really felt like having these really intimate conversations. And I felt like they allowed me to be so subtle and really be very, very hyper focused on certain moments. And like, it's just those scenes were very special, I think. And the writing is so beautiful. And those were gifts to me. I think that I felt it was a gift. And yeah, I think that like I tried to play into the tension as much as possible and feel that tension between us and those like shedding of layers. Like we were both shedding layers. I was becoming more real with him. He was becoming more real with me. It was just like it was beautiful to create this bond. And then also it's like Miles and I were spending all day together. We're like, getting along so nicely and just getting to know one another better and like we're also just like sweating in the woods in like 95-degree heat, like um yeah, that was my favorite day of shooting, I would say.
And they make that beautiful pact to kind of stick together at the end of all of it. Take me through the sleepwalking shower scene and maintaining your focus to not be aware of your surroundings. And in your eyes, was Jones sleepwalking or was it all an act? Was it a ruse?
Um I think he's definitely sleepwalking. I think it's real. Shooting that was like wild, honestly. I didn't really even know how I could prepare for it. Like basically like there exists this sort of way of using your eyes that's kind of called like soft focus. So it's like you sort of let everything go out of focus. Like right now you're out of focus, right? Um, that's what I did. I sort of like I tried really hard to just not focus. but it's like this person is right in front of you, they're trying to kiss you. It definitely took a few takes of like the director giving me some like ideas, but I do think we kind of got it. And it was like nothing I've ever done before. Um, so I was grateful that I felt like I got it because I was a little stressed.
You definitely got it. And I mean, you had to maintain that composure because, again, like you mentioned, Miles's Cameron is leaning in for that kiss, and he's just like, I can't see you. And, he turns around and goes back to bed. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting because I think that viewers couldn't tell if it was truly him sleepwalking or not, or if he was trying to get medically discharged then and there.
hmm Um, no, I think the sleepwalking is real because it ultimately like really endangers his life. And like also, I have that scene with Sullivan where he's like, we couldn't tell if this recruit was, and I'm like, this recruit isn't faking it, sir.
He was
Um,
being serious at that moment.
I was
Yeah.
serious. Yeah, no, I was serious.
Tell me a bit more about Sullivan's offer and that internal struggle for Jones and that proposition to cross Cameron, because, like you mentioned, he sees Cameron as someone who he can play with at the beginning and it's just a game, but he does kind of grow a bit more attached to him as they have their talks and by that point when the offer is given to him.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty devastated by the offer because immediately I know that I have to take it because ultimately affections and affiliations aside, I'm worried about me. I need to improve my situation. Um so and I think in Jones's perspective, like what he's being asked to do weighed against like his freedom. I'm like, he says after he punches Cameron, it's like, it's not a big deal. I think Jones literally is like, yeah, it's not that big of like, okay, it's bad what I'm doing, but it's like not that big of a deal. Um, of course, like I think when he sees how much Cameron was hurt by it, he is sorry and he doesn't want to do it, but survive at all costs. That's his MO. Um, So I don't think he could I think he very immediately knows that he has to do it and he's hurt by that, but doesn't really think about it for all that long.
It's like that every man for yourself mentality. And like you mentioned,
Right.
his number one goal is to leave camp. So whatever means necessary for him, despite, hurting someone who he kind of grew to like a little, like he's gonna do it. He has to.
hmm
Let's talk about the commanding presence of Max during those scenes. Did you definitely kind of feel that overbearing weight where he's like, okay, like this is very serious now. I have to take his offer.
Yeah, I mean, Max is incredible. Like he's an incredible actor. And then not only that, like we're punching in the middle of the scene, and I didn't know how to do that. So like right before we shot that scene, it was like everybody standing around watching me learn how to punch. It was very stressful. I was just like, dear God, let me get this right. And like, you know, and then I was also trying to act while I was also doing it. But it did kind of facilitate that power dynamic that exists between Jones and Sullivan, you know? There was this intensity to shooting that. Um, and ultimately, what made us get the shot was like finding the intensity, but also including a bit of defiance in the way that I conversed with him. You know, it was like finding that like obedience, but still defiance and like, strong-willed sensibility, you know?
I like that. I feel like Jones is someone who is not as, afraid of the sergeants and the DIs like most of the other recruits. ultimately Jones betrays Cameron in combat. They have that brutal fight, but Jones knew what he was doing. How was that for you to film physically and emotionally?
Well, the day before we shot that, I had a fever. I had been sick all weekend. And and so coming onto set miraculously, like I was feeling pretty much all better, but I was exhausted. It was also like it was like 95 degrees that day. Um and it was sort of like just it was the last day for that episode, the last day for that director. There was this long, long day of like very physical shooting. Like it was like stepping. It felt like stepping out at the Olympics, you know. Um, and then every time we would get a sequence of the fight, um, we had to land these punches in the right direction and like and stuff like that. But every time, and once he started hitting my face, we would get that hit. I would go get new gashes put on my face. Go back, get more hits, more gashes, more hits. And then the end of the day, it's like, we're the sunlight is waning. We're running out of time. He keeps punching me and I keep going the wrong way. They're like, "Joe, no, like you have to go that way." I was like, Um, Um, and yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the result is like amazing, and I'm so proud of it. I'm like really proud of that one shot where he pushes me against the wall, and then I'm like, you know, it's like, okay, turns out I'm an action star. No, kidding, kidding, kidding. But it's just like really like when you consider all the things that I got to do on this job. It's amazing. Like it was like a crash course in like TV production. It was amazing.
I mean, kudos to you for handling all of that, like the choreography. Basically, you can do all your own stunts now. And it's funny to hear the process though that kind of went into it. Can you do your punches now?
Well, no. I don't know if I have enough space.
But you're better. You're better than you were from where you started.
I would need to pick it back up a little bit. I don't punch a lot in my day-to-day life, honestly.
But if you had
I'm
to,
pretty
it's
non-violent as a rule.
self-defense training.
Self-defense training, I mean, listen. Never underestimate what adrenaline can do for you. And also, I would say the same for shooting the show. It's like you might feel completely dead inside, but then this moment hits while you're shooting, and adrenaline just delivers you to this place emotionally, like and I don't rely on that. I try not to, but sometimes in a pinch can really can really make a big difference.
And makeup did a stellar job as well because it was really sad to see his face. And I'm sure for you looking at yourself in the mirror, like you could feel the pain that Jones was feeling as well.
Well, yeah, I was very uncomfortable for the entirety of shooting the eighth episode. That makeup look would take an hour every day. And then I also had this contact, you see the bloodshot eye. So I had this contact that covered the entirety of the white of my eye. And there had to be a lens technician on set all day, who was there all day to help me take it in and out, put it in and out. And that process of it was pretty hard to get in. And then I also had a lesion scar that was on my eye, so it would press down on the eyelid. So I had this big, thick contact and also this thing pressing down on it. So it was kind of, and you know how like when one eye is messed up, it kind of messes up all of your vision a little bit. So I couldn't really see super well for episode 8. Like I was managing and I got a lot better over time. Um, but I was like I had this was what I lived with every day. But I really just sort of saw it as like a really vital element of this character's journey that I loved. I love the character. And I was like, well, this is a big part of his story, so this is a big part of your job to portray him. And I think at first I was like a little sad when I realized like, oh, this is my new normal on set. Um, but then over time I just embraced it as, a really important part of this amazing character that I get to play.
And you're doing it for the art. And of course, Jones
Exactly. Exactly.
returns battered and bruised for the crucible. He says to Cameron, back to being Sullivan's special boy, huh? How did that fight and its outcome really affect Jones's spirit going into that final exercise?
Well, he didn't get to go. He's still here. And not only that, Cameron almost killed him. Like, Cameron mutilated him far beyond what was necessary or called for. So Jones feels betrayed too, like Jones feels, and not only that, but Jones didn't get what he was promised, and that's the thing. They're going after one another, but it's like, hello, there's a common enemy here, okay? We've been done wrong by somebody else. Um, by the time the Crucible comes around, I'm just done. I'm done. I don't care anymore. I tried to be I tried to go a number of routes to make this situation work. Nothing's worked out. I'm just like, if they're gonna make me get through this, I'm gonna do it the laziest in the laziest, manner possible. And if that means I'm slowing Cameron down, even better.
There's definitely also, I think, that maybe he's angry at Cameron because of his, compliance and conformity to the Marines and their standards. Like you mentioned, at that point, like he can't see that Sullivan is the enemy, the mutual enemy for both of them. And then they overhear that conversation between Captain Fajardo and Sullivan in the woods. He's told that he cannot sign his medical discharge, so he goes AUA or AWOL the next day and is injured in the swamps. Take me through him being found by Sullivan and Cameron and that final moment he shares with Cameron before being driven away.
Well, I really think that he did just like sleepwalk and almost died. You know, I think he meant to basically try and finish, but he was just so over it. Um, I think in that moment is really important for his relationship with Cameron and how it's like wound wrapped up because they kind of reconcile in the woods. He's like, I'm sorry. Like I really am sorry. Um, but Cameron's holding firm in his, belief in Sullivan. But then he really shows up for Jones and really puts a lot on the line to save him. And that means a lot to Jones. Like I can't imagine. I just think I decided as the actor, like I think this is one of the most. I don't know if there are many other moments in his life where people have sacrificed so much for him. Like I think he doesn't have a lot of people risking their life for him. So I think it means a lot to him. And then, when they see when you see Jones on that truck getting carried away, it's sort of like, all right, see you in hell, devil dog. Um, it's like, all right, best of luck to you. I'll see you. Or it's like mutual understanding. We're both getting what we want. Best of luck to you with that. Um, who knows what happens? I don't know.
That is the question, but I have to say your delivery of the line, the three cheers for fraudulent enlistment, A boys, while Jones is sitting in the swamps with a broken leg, was perfect. Do you think
Thank
his
you.
perceptions of Sullivan changed at all during that scene? Like also having him go after Jones to make sure that he was okay.
I think I'm surprised. I'm surprised. But I think that I have pretty solid read on Sullivan and I stick to it. Like I think Jones thinks he knows pretty well who Sullivan is and what he's about. And he's touched maybe, but I think he feels more so like Cameron is if I think he probably feels like Cameron's more so behind the whole like saving him.
So, in your opinion, did Jones have a romantic attraction towards Cameron, especially as they got to know each other a bit better? Or was it purely sexual and physical in nature? Maybe a mix of both?
I think it's all three. I think it's platonic, sexual, and romantic. I don't think that they had the opportunity to develop the romantic side. I think a lot of romantic feelings start as a flirt, start with sexual attraction, and a flirtation. I think if they had been allowed to further develop their dynamic, who's to say what could have happened? You know, they could have just been friends, but they probably would have tried it out first.
In the confines of boot camp?
Listen, Jones was gonna find a way, it seems. I mean, listen, Cameron's the one that followed me to the bathroom. Cameron was being very bold. So, I think they would have found a way, but who's to say?
I think that a lot of people are mourning what could have been in season one between the two of them. But I do like your take on him because, like you mentioned, they didn't have that time to develop that romantic connection. And with Jones, given his past, like there is that emotional disconnect he feels in situations like this. Were you satisfied with the closure of his arc in season one and the purpose that he served in Cameron's story?
Of course. Yeah, I think that like I think that like maintaining that like s sexual tension between Cameron and I and between like us and the audience is like very effective because it's what do we see? A bunch of people desperate for like more, you know? Like I think sometimes giving the audience exactly what it wants is a little too easy. So I'm really grateful that they ended on good terms. They see one another eye to eye, we understand each other. I think, I feel Cameron's accepted my apology. And I think that I've performed a vital role in like making Cameron really evaluate his allegiance to this program and his allegiance to Sullivan. And I think that like I have an effect on his like inner Cameron, you know? Like I think his inner Cameron knows that I'm right. Um, and I'm speaking to the inner Cameron. So I'm grateful to have been able to perform that function within the narrative as like a voice speaking out against the oppression, the repression, encouraging him to take ownership over his identity.
And not be ashamed of it. And I think he did his part and you did your role. I know that you would love to return as Jones if the series is renewed. Do you have any ideas or thoughts about what that might look like?
I have no idea. I have no idea, whatever they want to do with the character, I respect. I respect it because they have a much bigger story to tell. They have to take care of a lot of different characters. Um, I don't think that it should happen just for the sake of fan service, but I would love to come back. I would love to come back. Um, But who knows? I think that, they could encounter one another in battle.
Is Jones going to make it through battle? Is he going to cycle back through, get out of the crypt platoon again?
I have no idea. I
If
really
it
don't. I don't.
furthers the story, you'd be happy to take the call, essentially.
It would be a dream to play Jones again, but I'm just grateful to have gotten to play him at all and to be a part of this show. It's such a dream come true with its response, with all the response to it. So I'm just gonna try and stay grateful for what I have and what I've been given, and all everything else is just it's just extra.
How was your experience working with the creative team, crew, and cast in New Orleans?
It was fantastic. It was fantastic. Like everyone on set was so beyond lovely, and so welcoming. And the energy on set was just really kind and easy, you know? We all worked really hard. We put in long hours, but in general, we were all just really happy to be there. And I'm very grateful to have had this be my first experience. Like I think I'm gonna have to prepare myself for the chance that there might be some environments that may be a little more difficult. I don't know, but a lot of people were saying like it is sort of atypical how great everyone like how well everyone gets along, and um so I was very grateful for that.
I know you mentioned before that you were trying not to get like dropped from the set and from the cast. Is that why you weren't taking photos? Because I know that you said you don't have many behind the scenes pictures and content because you thought that you weren't allowed to take pictures on set.
Well, yeah, okay. But first of all, the fear of like getting fired, that's kind of a joke, you know?
Yeah.
Though a lot of
You're
actors, I
good.
think
You're good.
I think a lot of actors do sort of like internally like, are they gonna fire me when I go home from set today? Yeah, I don't know, like I thought I wasn't allowed to take pictures in the costumes and stuff. Like I just like wasn't as comfortable, or I just didn't know. Also, to be clear, when I got there, like it was episode 6, the photo ops had sort of come and gone by then. Like everyone was just at work. So like people weren't taking as many photos all the time, group photos. And I didn't know people's comfortability of me just like filming them on set in their costume, just like I don't know. And maybe also it comes down to the fact that I just kind of forgot that it would come in handy. Um, but yeah, I didn't take nearly enough photos.
You did go to Mississippi kayak for Blake's birthday, which I know was a highlight for you. So, how was that getting to bond with some of the group outside of set?
It was awesome. It was so awesome. That day, kayaking with everyone, it was very joyous. And I was just grateful to be out in nature because usually I do that a lot in the summer, but I was grateful to just be doing something that felt um, relaxing, lighthearted, and just like to experience another environment and place. I've never been to Mississippi. It was really, really nice.
What has the fan support and online love meant to you? And have you received any memorable messages that have stuck with you since release?
I mean, the fan support is overwhelming. It's kind of crazy. They're being so nice to me. They're being so kind. Like, I was prepared to have to deal with like a little bit more negativity just because I think gay people can be sometimes cruel to other gay people. So, but generally, like, the worst thing I've heard anyone say is that I don't look good with hair, but I can live with that. Because I said it on TikTok, I'm like, I'm sorry, you're wrong. what really sticks with me is like I will get messages from people in parts of the world where it's illegal to be gay. And just they're like this palpable heartbreak and devastation that is you can see through their message. This person is so desperate to just be themselves and feel so trapped. It really reminds me of the privilege that I experience on a day-to-day basis living in a place like New York City, having the freedom to be myself, to express myself. Sometimes I think I lose sight of that because we've had it for a long time around over here, and it almost feels like you can't even really, sometimes I don't even feel like I'm part of a marginalized group or like anything like that because gay people have so much freedom to exist here. It reminds me to keep maintain my gratitude for that because it didn't just come out of nowhere. You know, it was fought for. People put themselves on the line so that I can experience this freedom today. So those messages really mean a lot to me, and my heart is with those people. It's very sad to think about.
I think it just helps you practice gratitude and to know that your character and your work is just like a little bright spot in people's day as well as they continue to, fight for what's right and know and understand their worth. How has it been navigating all of the sudden attention? Like, would you describe yourself as more of an introvert or extrovert when it comes to being online? Because I was listening to your podcast appearance, That Sounds Hard podcast, and I loved hearing you talk about the dichotomy where online attention isn't tangible in your real world, like you're not being stopped on the streets all the time. But it is
Yeah,
interesting to navigate being online and seeing all those comments and how much you want to share publicly.
I'm still figuring it out all the time. I'm definitely an extrovert in my life. I'm an extrovert. But when I'm like talking to TikTok, I'm like, hi, um, I don't know how to do this, you know? I'm scared of like I'm scared of making myself seem like a millennial because I'm like on the older side of Gen Z. Like I'm scared they're gonna make fun of me for like millennial pausing or something. Um, I think that I've actually been surprised by how like easily I've been dealing with like becoming a public person kind of overnight. I think it would be harder if they weren't being so dang nice to me. You know, like people were making me feel so valued and I don't know. They're like I'll just say random stuff at the camera for 3 minutes and they're like more, 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 and I'm like actually like you are. And so I don't. It's been really really nice. I did go see Sabrina Carpenter 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and I caught someone filming me in the audience. And and if you're that person and you're watching, it's okay. It's okay. I was in public. I put myself in a public place. It was sort of almost nice to just have confirmation that like this thing that's happening online is like real. That
Did
it's
they
not
even
some
say
like
hi to you?
no, no.
Oh, I'm sure you would have valued building that connection in
Well, I
person.
mean, people are always welcome to come say hi, especially like because no one's really doing it.
I
I do
mean, to
get
have that
recognized at my
experience,
restaurant.
you do
I
star
do. Yeah.
power working at
Yeah,
the
I get
restaurant.
recognized by my tables.
It's so nice though that you are building that connection with people online because there is like that kind of gray area as well, but you're embracing it and you said people are being really nice to you.
Well, it's like if they enjoy this content, the least I can do is is like, communicate a bit and show my gratitude because people know the power that they hold, giving people their attention on the internet. They know that like they people feel when they see someone succeeding, it's like we were part of it, you know? And so when people put their weight behind you on the internet, it's like they're choosing to sort of invest in you. And that means everything. It's like so kind. So the least I can do is, get on there and just like, I don't know, be silly. Um, um, yeah, I'd love to have an open dialogue. I feel like we already have like inside jokes. Like the 10, me and my 10 fans. Like everyone's always, they're like, I'm one of the 10. Um, or the hi, hello, or the little detectives. We already have inside jokes. I love it.
As we kind of round things out here, I do have to ask, do you have any upcoming projects that you can share or, auditions that you're alluding to? Hopefully they turn out well.
I did just shoot a small part in a movie. Um, that'll be out next year, I think. Um, Emphasis on small part, but impactful part. Um, I think a lot of people will know the director and creator of the movie, so it's like, really exciting to be a part of it. Other than that, we're just gonna stay grinding and try and create more opportunities. And if season two rolls around and they want me to be a part of it, that would be an amazing reunion with the boys, my lovely boys.
It's an exciting time for you. There are no small parts in filmmaking and movies, as I'm sure you've heard. So I'm excited to
I
see what
have.
that is. I have one more question for you, our signature question. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
Coffee, because that's my favorite, and because I need caffeine always. I am terminally exhausted person, as you, as evidenced by my frequent yawning on this interview. I apologize.
All good, all good. I was about to ask, did you have your morning coffee? But maybe the
Oh
answer
yeah,
is
I've only had like three.
you needed the fourth and the fifth for sure.
Here we go. But this yawn, I think, counts as like it came because we were talking about it.
You just heard the word coffee and exhaustion.
Right, right.
It's been such a pleasure to chat with you, Jack. You gave such a nuanced performance as Jones and really made the most of your screen time. So I'm excited to see what comes next in your career and to follow along. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was so lovely, honestly. I loved the questions you asked. It really brought me back to a lot of the creative process of the show. So thank you for your thoughtful interview.
Of course, hopefully we can catch up again in the future. But until then, for all those watching, make sure to catch Jack as Jones in Boots. Season 1 is out now on Netflix, and we will see you next time.
Bye.